I would like to introduce you to a very special guest. Most of you already know him. It's Alan Austin Smith. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
We were just chatting there about your best-selling book, Fantastic Hairdresser, after selling 170,000 copies.
Yeah, overall, yeah.
I'm actually blown away right now because I didn't know it was going to be that figure, but that's incredible.
To be honest, I still can't quite get my head around it. We printed 3,000. When we went for it.
The print run, yeah, okay.
Yeah, our first print run, we
and
thought
even
3,000.
at that stage, it's like 3,000.
Yeah,
3,000 books. It's like
had no comprehension whatsoever of what would happen, and it's just been astonishing. It seems to have touched a nerve with people, and I think what's lovely is the comments you get from people all around the world.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I'm traveling and people come up to me and say, "Oh my God, your book changed everything for me," and you know, I fell in love with hairdressing again, or whatever, and that's nice.
It's an industry book. That's why it travels so far, doesn't it? You know, it goes around the world and offers the same sort of techniques and same the same philosophy really behind the hairdressing industry, doesn't it? Really, the management skills, becoming a fantastic hairdresser. Isn't it really? That's
it is what it was for me. You've heard me talk about my 50% rule, and I feel so strongly about that.
Yeah.
And what I felt was that there is so much education, you know, and so much you can give a young hairdresser in terms of the skills. You know, I mean, what you guys do here and everything else is amazing. But I just didn't feel there was enough. You know, what I wanted was something that you could give to an 18-year-old or 28 or 38-year-old hairdresser and say, listen, you know, you cut hair great or you colour hair well or whatever, but this will take you to the next level.
Yeah.
Okay. And I just didn't feel there was anything like that. There was stuff for the business owner, for the manager, but nothing you could give to the stylist and say this. And then, of course, we had to make sure it was stylist friendly, if you like, and that it worked in that way.
It's been going 15 years, isn't it?
Yeah, amazing.
And is there anything you change, the content now than like back then, or is there any sort of changes that you would make?
Absolutely, it's funny enough because we've been looking recently, and there's nothing. I actually went through it's kind of weird. You don't read your own book. And so on.
Well, you would have read it at the start, to edit it. And,
exactly. But sort of you don't sort of pick up your own book and read it for bedside reading.
I'm sure you've forgotten a few things in there, but I suppose it's embedded in you.
But
I guess,
you know what? It's true. I went through it again, read it again because I wanted to look and just in the last year. And it's kind of weird because you're actually going, that's a good point.
I forgot about that.
But the conclusion was there's absolutely nothing we would take out of it. Yes, because of the way the world's changed with social media and different things like that and whatever, there would be things that we're looking to possibly add in the future.
Yeah, but not to change.
Yeah, but because that's why we were looking at it.
Okay.
Is there a updated version 2, for want of a better word, coming? And it's something we're looking at and thinking about. I'm not going to make any promises, but it's something we're looking at. But when we did it, no, there was nothing to take out. Yes, I think we could add some more stuff in.
Yeah, like the social media. I think the marketing aspect, has changed.
Definitely.
I think we talked about that in our first interview.
Absolutely.
We talked about how that has changed our industry, and it's remarkable how we can actually promote ourselves via social media and use it as a magazine as such, isn't it? Look, you coach and salon leaders, bosses, team members. Explain to our viewers a little bit about the 50-50 rule that you did cover in the class there, and also about the buy-focused strategy that you also touch on as well.
Okay, and that's interesting because you mentioned the book, because I think one of the reasons why the book's been so successful is because of those two principles.
Okay, they're the main principles.
Well, first of all, the 50%. Sorry,
is that the pillar of the
yeah, not necessarily. I don't necessarily think. Well, I think the 50% rule was, as I said earlier, it was like I wanted something that could get that message across. That yes, your skills are critical. Yeah. But you also need this stuff, what I call the other stuff. Yeah. You know, the customer service, confidence, great communication skills, motivation, and so on. So to me, that's the 50% rule. You know, that's really what the 50% rule is. I passionately believe that 50% of what makes a fantastic hairdresser has got absolutely nothing to do with a pair of scissors or a tint brush.
Yeah, you elaborated on that in the class, which I've got to say you've got to watch because it's absolutely incredible. But could you elaborate a little bit further on that? What's the other 50%?
Well, in that, you may be amazing with a tint brush in your hand. And whatever. But if you haven't got the other skills, confidence, communication, customer service, self-motivation, creativity, etc. You will, I believe, this is my belief, but you will only ever be a good hairdresser. What stands you out from the crowd, and by the way, there's loads of good hairdressers. Yeah. What stands you out from the crowd is when you've got those other skills, the other 50%. I often use, because by the way, this you can apply this to any job. Yeah. And I often use as a sort of spread, if you like, with respect to bin men, but I use bin men to surgeons. Okay. And I say, if you say your bin men are fantastic, you're not talking about the way they pick up your rubbish. Okay. You're talking about the way they smile, say good morning, shut the gate, the other stuff. Yeah, yeah. If someone says my surgeon was fantastic, you weren't watching. You're not talking about the skill. Course, what you're saying is, in that business, they call it bedside manner. A taxi driver might know how to get me from A to B, but if they're miserable, do you understand? No, I do. And it's that other stuff, and I've always understood that. When I was a hairdresser myself, I always believe I was a good hairdresser technically, but I had a busy column. Clients that were doing anything had the highest numbers and everything.
Did you always feel like, separate to, work colleagues or whatever, you went above and beyond? Did you feel? I
didn't know I did. I know that sounds strange.
Did you work in an environment where everybody had that level? Because you did. You came from Sassoons, right?
Sassoons, and then I was working in Bond Street with, I was creative director of the Glenby salon in Phoenix in those days. It's a kind of strange thing because I had the high numbers. Yeah, I had the highest average bill, the highest colour, and everything else, but I didn't know why. For me, I just did my job. And it actually wasn't until a lot later that it was when I was at Glenby, I was put into a salon that was struggling, and they asked me to go and manage it for 6 months. And it was only when I got there that I realised that these guys all had very good skills. But the reason why it was struggling was because they weren't making the client feel amazing. They were doing an amazing haircut, but they didn't make them feel amazing. Yeah. And that's why I always say our job is we make people look and feel fantastic. Yeah. And I actually think that's one of the big changes. In the old days, as a hairdresser, way old days, if I go right back to my Sassoon roots almost, it was about making you look fantastic.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And the feel bit was sort of, some people used to cry. So, and I think that's been the massive change. Yes, you've got to make them look fantastic. But if they don't feel it,
would you think the standards have always has come up in the industry, and over the last 40 years? But then the customer service then has to improve and keep improving because everybody's almost good come to a level.
Precisely. The standards have improved, which means the crowd now is actually being a good hairdresser. Yeah. It has. Yeah. And so on. So and it's how you step up from that crowd and out of that crowd. And for me, that's got to be the other stuff.
I always think even going into amazing restaurants, the really high level restaurants, or a 5-star hotel, it's that level of service that you go in, you go, wow, that's the difference.
And you know what it is?
Meticulous behaviour, attention to detail, all those things.
And you know what it is? It's not just service. It's I call it customer bothered.
Customer bothered, okay.
Yeah, because that's actually what it is. Is can you be bothered? Yeah. Can you be asked to do what needs to be done? And I think that almost like service has become a level now. There's almost good service has become a level.
I guess so, because everybody's like...
And it's how do you stand out? And actually, when you look at your own experiences, it's the person who could be bothered to go that extra mile, to do that extra thing, to give you something more.
Even like the little things, isn't it? Like if a client asks for a Coke and, we don't sell Coke, go out and buy a can of Coke type of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's that mindset that says, how can I make this person feel amazing? Now, if they ask for Cristal, maybe that's not going to happen. but yes, exactly that.
Those little touches, isn't it, really, that makes a difference. Makes the client feel valued.
When you look at I always say, when you look at service from your own perspective, what is the stuff that makes the difference? Yes, we all like the silver service, the 100 waiters looking after you and so on. But it's about the person who is thinking that little extra step. A really, really quick one. There's a restaurant very close to us that we go to a lot, which is beautiful. I took my wife there for her birthday. She didn't want a fuss made. She's not that type of person. The wine waiter poured the wine, left the table. We were in conversation. There was nobody around. There was nobody at the table. And we finished the conversation. I lifted my glass and said, "Happy birthday, darling." That was it. It's the only time we mentioned her birthday. At the end of the meal, they brought out, and it was in the classy restaurant, so it wasn't sparklers and stuff, and everybody standing around singing. But they brought out a nice little chocolate mousse with one candle thing on it, and they just put it in front of her very discreetly and said, "Happy birthday, madam."
Wow.
And I was like, how did they know?
Yeah.
And the funny thing was my wife said, "Oh, thank you," to me, and I could have got the brownie points, but I didn't. I was so shocked.
I would have totally milked
Yeah,
that.
I know. When I think back now, why didn't I milk it? But I was so shocked, and I called the maitre d'. I said, "How did you know it's my wife's birthday?" And he said, "Oh, one of the waiters was walking past when you wished her happy birthday."
Ah, right. That's actually good.
That's
good.
customer bothered.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the difference, and it's when people are bothered. So, and I think, so much stuff reaches.
Because he didn't
levels.
have to do that.
No.
Could have been busy.
How many restaurants would have? How many waiters and waitresses might have heard that and done nothing?
Yeah.
Majority.
That was that individual as well. That's down to the individual.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where great customer service, I call it customer delight, comes from. It's actually being customer bothered. It's being, can you be asked to go the extra mile to do those things? Absolutely.
Very good. Look, also another area we wanted to touch on, you coach many areas. How, on your courses, when people go to your courses, or if they wanted to go and do a coaching course with you, you cover retail, management, leadership. How's it broken down? How's it? Is it done over days? Is it done?
There's a combination of different things. We've got online education now. We're very much into that, and that's developing more and more and more. Okay. We have
like Q&As with people. Is it? Like
no, it's actually we're starting to create more of our courses to go online, so people can do online training. I don't think online will ever replace live. Yeah. But I definitely think we need, as everybody does, as you're doing, to be providing more great content online. Okay. And so there's that. But for us, it's always split down into three areas in terms of education. Team, and that's been about the other 50% and so on, about how we teach them to do great consultations, more customer bothered, and teamwork and so on. Management, leadership, in terms of the leadership. So we have a great 2-day program called The New Manager, for example, that we run in our academy in London. And so on. So we do a lot of for the leader.
Within the management, can I just ask again, within the management, how do you break that down into areas? Do you do finance? Do you do customer service?
Okay, so when it's management, it's about getting results out of the two people you're managing. Okay. So it's communication, motivation. It's also about your own personal management, time management, things like that. So when it's leadership, it's very much about how do you get results out of people.
Okay, yeah.
The third element is what you're talking about, business.
Yeah.
So we go team, leadership, business. Okay. And then business is marketing, finance, and so on. And we have a program called Business Masters, which is a year-long program.
Yeah. You talked about this before, actually. Could you elaborate a bit more on that again?
It's 3 workshops over a year. We actually run them in Ireland. Our European base is in Ireland. Okay. So the first workshop is 3 days, and we look at how to build a strategy for the future, and how to make sure that strategy is making you profit.
Okay.
The second workshop, which is 2 days, which is normally about 3-4 months later, and that is based on leadership, communication. You've got to get the team on board. So the logic, you've got to know where you're going. What's the plan? What's the strategy? And that strategy's got to be making you profit. Okay. Once you've got that in place, now you need the team on board to achieve it. Okay. Yeah. So that's the second strategy. The third strategy then is marketing. So that says we've got all this in place. Now we've got to tell people about it. Okay. So that's marketing and putting it all together. Now, alongside that, there's also an online program that runs. You get about a 20-minute lesson every 2 weeks online. Okay. That just keeps you ticking. Because the problem is we all do this stuff, putting it into action, keeping it going, being consistent. And so that really helps. Okay. That, for me, when you put all that together, there's an intangible part, which is the connection with the other people in the group as well, of course. But when you put all that together, it really is an amazing program. And so that's Business Masters. So yeah, we hit the business end, we hit the leadership side, and we hit the team side, both online and live in those ways.
Very good. Can you tell us a little bit, or why did you decide to go into the product industry?
I get asked this question so much. why products, Alan?
Yeah.
Where does that fit?
Where
does that fit?
Under your umbrella of, I mean...
Okay. I've always seen us, or I've always seen one of my... Okay, you asked me about being bi-focused.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
And I actually said about the book, we wanted the book to be what people would read, not what I wanted to write.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so on.
It's a different mind shift, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. And it's really stopping and thinking about that. Mm-hmm. It's exactly the same with how we do everything. So rather than, we don't create courses or products. By the way, when we talk product, we don't just mean a bottle of shampoo, anything, our training products and so on. We don't create anything necessarily from our perspective. We come at it from what our customers want, need, what the areas are, being buy-focused rather than sales-focused.
Okay, yeah.
So, for example, we were hearing over and over again, team meetings, Alan, team meetings. I know they're so important. I know they're so critical. Yeah, but I'm not very good at them. Or I never know what to do or what to say in them, and so on. How do I move it on from just a list of stuff that has to be done? So we created Fantastic Team Meetings.
Okay.
Which is 20 pre-prepared team meetings that are online that you can buy and use to run a team meeting, literally. So what I'm saying is that our mindset is when the customer's saying, we want that, we go, okay, well, we can help you there. So we see ourselves as a solutions company. We don't sort of market ourselves like that because people think we're a computer company, but basically we see ourselves as coming up with solutions. So I've got this question. I mentioned it in the talk. Is it working?
Yeah.
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 Team meetings, are they important? Yes. Are they working? No, not really. What can we do?
Okay, and change it if it's not working.
Exactly. So what can we do to change? So I decided, in my wisdom, to look at retailing in the sun industry.
Okay.
And I said, is it working? And I think actually most people watching know the answer was.
No, it's not.
Not really.
My God.
And so once it's no, you've then got to go, what do we change?
Yeah.
What has to change? So very quickly, because it's huge, but very, very quickly, what we did, what wasn't working, and the key things that weren't working was the high levels of stock a salon has to hold.
Okay.
Affects the profitability. The competition from online, companies like Look Fantastic and Beauty Bar and so on, was meaning you weren't getting the repurchase sales. So you were stocking all this stock, all that commitment, all that money, giving all that time and effort, training your team to get and we all know it's not easy to move someone from a £2.50 or €2.50 product to a 25 or 20 euro product. Doing all that hard work and the client taking it home and going, wow, this stuff's great, and then repurchasing online.
Okay,
and that's what's changed.
That's what's changed.
Yes,
it's absolutely
and so on. So we've almost lost so much of that repurchase. Unless they just happen to need more shampoo the moment they're in the salon, it's changed. Now, what a lot of people were doing was having their own shops, their own online shops, things like that. But the trouble is you can't compete with the Fantastics of this world, and so on. It's impossible. And so it was like, how can we find? So anyhow, I came up with a solution, and the solution briefly was that what if we were the online shop that looked fantastic?
Okay, yeah.
But with a mindset to support the industry.
Okay.
Yes? And so therefore, what if your client repurchased via us,
okay,
we gave you a commission.
Ah, very good.
Yes?
Very good indeed.
So we bounced the commission back to you. But I realised that there's another issue, and that is, it's always been the issue, and that's the stylist confidence.
Okay, yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
And I think that's being undermined by online. Because what happens is that you say to a client about this product, and then they come back and say, I found it online much cheaper than your site.
Of course, yeah. That's terrible.
And once that happens, you don't have the confidence to talk to them about it.
Yeah.
So what I felt was a key part was I had to also say, we guarantee you will always have the best price.
Yeah.
And then I realised that the only way I could do that was if we had our own product line.
Okay, yeah.
Because if we were selling L'Oreal or whatever, I couldn't guarantee the best price.
Yeah.
So I realised the only way we could do it is we had to. So we literally sort of put this in a box and then went, so now we've got a create a product line. Yeah. We decided to go initially for just a small care line, and keep it small, keep it simple, very high quality.
Okay.
Yeah. And then position it differently.
Okay, very good.
Yeah. So it simply works in that your client says, you say to your client, oh, this shampoo's great, or this oil's great, or whatever, and they go, oh, that's fab. And you can say, listen, if you sign up to be a Fantastic fan, you get 20% discount straight away, whether you buy from me or online. Okay. And what that does is that tells us that client is yours. So we can then make sure if they do buy online, we bounce it back to you. You don't have to carry as much stock.
That's amazing. Yeah. So it's,
but the really important thing is we don't see ourselves as a product company.
Okay.
We have a product. We are and always will be an education company.
Okay.
We just now have a product line.
Amazing. Do you know what? I could talk to you all day. Thank you very much for joining us anyway and sharing all your wealth of knowledge. It's always so inspiring listening to you and even watching you today in today's class. Absolutely extraordinary. So thank you very much everybody for tuning in, and thank you very much for your continued support. If you didn't see Alan's class, you can go on to www.hairdressing.live.com and you can watch the class. It'll be available to watch tomorrow. Okay, thank you very much, Alan, for joining us.
Pleasure.
Thanks a million. Take care.
Take care.
If you like what you've seen, leave a comment below and subscribe to our YouTube channel.